listen to a lecture and then they go home. Right now, people simply stick around.
What does Tinel mean?
It means living room in our dialect. So basically, Croatia has three dialects. One from the Slavonian, from the eastern part, one from the northern, and this Dalmatia side is mostly leaning towards Italy when it comes to expressions, and we have a different dialect. So Tinel, it's a living room. So that's basically the main idea, to make people feel like they're in the living room. So yeah, that's why all the snacks, drinks, and so how did you meet? At some of the conferences or
Yes. It was in Austria at VR Developers.
aha, that was a few months ago.
Yeah.
So he just approached you,
It
asked
was
you.
in May, yes. It happened very, really fast. I didn't expect it, so I'm happy.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, but you never know if you don't ask. So
Yes.
that's the thing. So which one was your favorite conference so far?
I don't know.
You don't know.
It's
So
really
many.
hard to say. Yes. But I clearly like to differentiate commercial conferences and community-driven. I'm not saying that these are good and these are bad. They are just different, different things.
So would you say that We Are Developers is a commercial conference?
Yes, it's pure commercial, and sometimes community-driven conferences not so well organized, but you have the feeling
the hospitality.
hospitality, and folks try their best, and they do it not for the salary. So you forgive many things to these guys, and as a rule, even if not well organized, even there are some fails and not very convenient for the speakers. Anyway, you are feel great.
Yeah, that's true.
And I run two community-driven conferences myself, so I know how challenging it is. You know this as well, right?
Well, yeah, you learn a lot. I mean, with each event, you learn new things you can actually implement. So yeah, but I would love to hear your feedback once all this is done, maybe later tonight. So I'd love to hear what you're going to say about this. Anyway, I'm just going to read through my presentation and we are back. You can just mingle around with me.
No, slušaj ovo, slušaj ovo. Slušaj šta će rekao.
first actually Angular connected event that we've hosted. We hosted so many different topics, and we start with those. But I'm going to start with a different word, which is free. So you might have noticed that as soon as you come here, people start bombarding you with beers, with snacks and juices and whatever. But there are so many different stuff that you can actually get for free by coming here, and it's not all connected to knowledge or whatever, or drinks or whatever. That you can actually gather so many different insights. You can meet new people. You can maybe we even had some cases where people found a job at this event. So yeah, make sure you use all of these and just try to make the most out of coming here, because after all, it is free. So what do you need to give in return? It's basically nothing. You just come here. All you need to is RSVP, confirm your attendance, and yeah, just come to the event. But yeah, you could follow us on the channel, so you can simply stay in touch with all the topics that we are trying to promote here, whether it's development, design, business, marketing, whatever. We are going to have so many more of those in the coming months. So yeah, you've probably seen them on TV as well, but make sure you follow all these channels. How did we make it free? Yeah, that was the main idea, just to give everything to people, give the knowledge, give all the stuff that actually surround the event, and it wouldn't be really possible without the partners. So Marvi, it's a hotel in Split that provides accommodation for our speakers. Not this month, unfortunately, because they're fully booked. But still, that means that business is growing and working good. So yeah, from the next one, it will be completely combined. And if you decide to come back for the conference, if we decide to host it, you will be situated there. Beer, you can cook yourself in, maybe take one of your own in the kitchen. Pizzas are arriving shortly after the event, so make sure you don't leave straight after Maxim talk is done. So just enjoy the pizza. It's definitely the best one in town. Cakes, the cake is in the fridge. Did you ever have a cake with your name on it?
Nope.
Yeah, this is going to be a first. Split Tech City, our streaming partners, Uber, our drive partner, who provide funds for the speaker to get around, maybe circulate in Split and see all the beautiful stuff that are up for grabs. Grazia, they also announced the event, and they help us with the marketing campaign. So, before we head into Angular, I'd like to mention that our next talk is going to be augmented reality. So I think the attendance is going to be much larger than this one, because yeah, it seems like people are not really into that much of technical topics. So this one should be fun. Now, I would like to welcome Max, who came here from Oslo, originally from Russia. He's a speaker. He's also hosting events like this one, conferences as well. So yeah, I said it. I'm really looking forward to your input about the event, and yeah, just want to hear from you. So yeah, grab a beer, enjoy the talk, and yeah.
Hello, folks. Yeah, give us a second to switch laptops.
Here you go, sir.
So, how to make sure that everyone is seeing the screen? Okay, that works. And go back. Still working. Might work. Too far? Too close? Okay. Yes. Good evening, everyone. And hello, everyone who is watching us live. We have live stream, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so first, before we dive into all this technical stuff, let me motivate you a bit. I'm really impressed by the level of organization of this event, of this meetup. I'd say that this is really conference level, and it's like a downscaled conference. It doesn't even look like meetup. So great job, Locastic. Great job, Tony. Let's give a round of applause. This is next. I believe you still want something in return. I'm sure that Locastic folks will be happy if you come to speak on that stage. Am I correct? Yes. So you are really lucky that in your town you have this place, this environment where you come to listen to the technical sessions. But I encourage you to be active members of this community, and meetups are perfect place for both newbie speakers and professional speakers. So this is really good place, the best place to try to your speaker skills, and you never know that maybe this is your best hobby, like it happened with me. So if someone told me 3 years ago that you, Maxim, will visit dozens of countries, have hundreds of flights each year to different parts of the world for speak, I would not believe. But this is why I'm here. And for professional speakers, if you visit many conferences to speak, Meetup is the perfect place to test different formats. And you know, on the conference, you don't have the privilege to get so much feedback. So I encourage you to not be passive listeners today, but so let's build it this way. Let me not speak, but let me communicate, right? And as I mentioned, let's experiment. I have lots of different materials, both about Angular, progressive web apps, modern web. So I really wish to give the information which will be interesting and useful for you. And let's build the discussion and the level of discussion all together. So if you wish, we can dive deep into technical stuff. If you wish more like general sessions, I'm here. So let's build this discussion. But still, if we have this session named Angular Progressive Web Apps, let's at least start from this topic, and who knows where we go next. So my main answer for main question today is how do we build progressive web apps built on Angular, and how do we find the proper ways to do this? So, speaker is not so robust today, so let me just do it like this old gold way. Yes, we have some options to build these apps, but before we jump into Angular, let me give a bit more details about me. As Tony mentioned, I run similar meetups in Oslo, Norway, where I live, dedicated to Angular, to progressive web apps, and one more dedicated to mobile development. And also I run an Angular conference called NGY. Maybe some of you know this name. This is Angular conference for not for, but in Scandinavia. We travel from country to country. We were in Denmark this year. We were in Finland. Next year we go to Sweden. Like real Vikings, we love to travel, and it's also 100% community-driven conference. It's all about community. This is my Twitter. Max, are you? I tweet mostly about Angular, about modern web, about progressive web apps after all. Just follow me, and as I remember, my pinned tweet at the moment is huge slide deck dedicated to all the sides of progressive web apps. And let's, after all, start with this. In simple words, what is progressive web apps? But before I explain everything, let me ask you. Maybe you try to build your progressive web apps, but the first question, who are developers, web developers here in the room? Okay, very good. Any Angular developers? Fewer hands. So maybe we put main attention to progressive web apps, not to Angular. We'll see. Progressive web apps. Anyone heard about this? Okay. Some practical experiments. Just hobby projects. Okay. Then let me explain what's behind this idea at all. And is this a totally different type of applications, or it's a framework, or it's a library? No. This is, I'd say, mindset. How we rethink the web apps we build, of course, using the latest technologies exposed by latest versions of browsers. So here we fully rely on the browsers, right? And I'd say even more general on environments where we run these apps. So I think we all love web, all love current state of web, how it's developing, and how it's becoming more and more friendly both to developers and of course users. And modern browsers, they equipped with absolutely amazing set of APIs and set of possibilities and functionalities exposed for the users and of course for developers. So let's just use all these modern web APIs. Why? To give the better user experience to our users, clients, customers, you name it. Just to make them happy. And of course, it's it's long-time dream of all developers, not only web but in general, to make this make our applications cross-platform, right? So we write one code and we run everywhere in the browser, on desktops, on mobile devices, without any wrappers, right? Like native code and let's even say native JavaScript code, right? So I believe most of you work with JavaScript. Okay. What's wrong with this picture? I call this year. Is it okay if I sit here? I call this year of PWA, of progressive web, because this is the year when all major browsers and platforms started to support at least basic functionality of APIs we need to create this type of apps. And if I mentioned cross-platform a couple of times, let's have a look. Which platforms do I mean exactly? Browser. So after all, this is web, right? This is browser. This is place where web applications came from. Not stuck there, but at least came. Mobile devices. Very interesting type of hardware on at least two points, right? First, our mobile phones, our smartphones, they are still not as performant as our desktops or laptops, right? Despite they are super powerful at the moment, but still our laptops are more performant in general. And on the other hand, they equip with really cool set of hardware features, all types of sensors, GPS, accelerometers, all media possibilities like nice cameras, and of course we really love to use this hardware from our applications. And actually mobile devices were like igniters of progressive web idea in general. And desktops, after all, why not to have our web applications running on our desktops and laptops as native ones? That would be really cool. Let's list some logotypes here. Browsers. Really good news in this year that all other vendors started to support at least basic functionality we need to run these kind of applications. Again, cross-platform and exposing some interesting features. We'll talk about features a bit later. On mobile devices, two major platforms, after all, support this. We were waiting for a long time support from the side of Apple in iOS, but after all, that happened, I believe, even sooner than we expected. And on desktop, it's interesting, but pioneers here is Windows with Microsoft. It's Windows. So now on Windows 10, you can run your web application, like set of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and maybe some pictures, as absolutely native app, like the one you wrote using, I don't know, C# or C++ or something like this. And the second logotype here on desktop line is not Chrome as browser, but Chrome OS as operating system. You know that Google is promoting its own operating system, Chrome OS, and basically this is like browser-based operating system, a very interesting one, and obviously progressive apps are first-class citizens there. And on Mac and inside the Google Chrome for Windows, you can enable this support. It's just hidden behind the flag at the moment, so it's for us, for developers at the moment, to test how it works. Okay, so I hope I convinced you that the level of support of these APIs we are going to use, and I will explain this now, is quite good. So this is really good time not to just try, but to create your progressive web apps. Now we got to the point, why to create this? What do they bring to the users? First, and maybe the most interesting part of all that concept, that we now kind of disconnect our web app from the internet, right? So let's all forget that web applications is about being online, it's about being always connected to the internet. No, now we think about our web apps like about just apps, right? And we don't need to be always connected, and we don't rely on HTTP cache at the moment. If we still connected, why not to notify our users about some important events? We all use push notifications on mobile devices, and what's the key difference of, say, this kind of notification from the one we can, I don't know, show in our regular web app, like some dialog window or something happened. The key difference is you can send your push notification to the user who subscribed to this, even when your web app is not running at all, right? So you don't have to have some application like Facebook, for example, open on your mobile phone to get notifications about shares or something like this, right? And the same is available for the web now, and this is totally new feature available on the web, and many other really interesting features exposed by new API, relatively new, because API called Service Worker. And after all, if we mentioned app application many times today, right? But how do we convert actually set of our JavaScript files, HTML, CSS, and other types of files to what we call application? Using very simple JSON-based file following web app manifest specification. So we just supply this JSON with some meta information about the name of app, some brand colors, some display options, and operating system which support these specifications. And you remember that we have really good options there. They now able to think about this kind of application as an application. So you can, for example, add it to home screen, and your user has the feeling of okay, this is something like app. Your questions about Professor Labs? Any thoughts, ideas, doubts? That's totally cool to say. Maxim, we are not convinced. We need something more interesting. Okay, who can name me some popular progressive web apps which are available in production now? The most like popular one, which presented, which many times on different conferences, many articles about this, and it's really interesting use case. And this is a huge service and well-known service.
Twitter.
Who say Twitter? Yes, Twitter. If you go to mobile.twitter.com, you will for example, it works the best on your mobile Android device. You will see not just a website, but a website which formed as progressive app. So you can install it, and this will take place on your home screen, and this will work exactly like native Android application. Not exactly, but better, because this is smaller, this is faster, and you will never understand that this is actually JavaScript application. This is not the one written in Java or Kotlin or whatever we use to write apps for Android. And the news of last maybe 2 days that this experiment was so successful that now Twitter is moving this progressive app from mobiletwitter.com to just Twitter. So we will have now whole Twitter as progressive web app, and this is really good news both for developers and for communities. That means that idea is working and working well. So even huge vendors started to believe in this. But let's start with anything, right? So Angular, this is modern framework, right? And as any modern framework, it has some nice tools or ways to create progressive apps based on Angular, and some options, right? Of course, we can just go and create a service worker manually. In the next couple of slides, I will give more details about what is a service worker at all and why do we need this at all. Next, we can use built-in functionality, and that's called Angular Service Worker. This is part of framework, official part of framework from Angular team. Also, of course, we can use some external progressive app libraries or tools or utilities, you name it, which are not related to any framework, like framework agnostic ones, and this is also really interesting option. One of these libraries called SW Precache, it's from Google, but now we have successor of SW Precache, which is also from Google's. It's not like a new version of SW Precache, but like re-architectured and re-thought and like totally reworked version of this library. And who can call its name? Like the most popular, famous library which helps us to automate many of tasks we need in progressive web app. Any ideas? That's called Workbox. If anyone heard this name, that's cool because I'm explaining. I will explain you. Okay, let's go option by option to understand what is service worker at all first and why do we need this kind of automation. Let's have a look what will it take to create service worker by hands. And here, by the way, it's not like obligatory bound to Angular. So instead of Angular, we can think about any other framework or just vanilla JS if you wish. So let me give you some brief introduction to service worker and how it works. But before this, I invite you to join this Slack. I organized a Slack team called Progressive Above Slack, so super simple, maybe 1 year ago, and now it's already 1.6 thousand developers, including folks from browsers, from frameworks like Angular, and from libraries like Workbox. So please join. This is open Slack team, and everyone is welcome. We try to be useful. We try to solve some practical questions, and this is a nice place both for newcomers and professionals. So literally everyone is welcome. And by the way, I have this URL in the slide deck. I have a link to on my Twitter, so you will get all these links. I hope that I have my Twitter handle on one of the last slides. So no worries. And plus, I will post this link to comments of this meetup. So you will get all the information. Okay, so if we started to discuss what is a service worker, let's take some practical use case. Let's try to understand what will it take from us to organize one of like how that's called architectural approach called application shell. So anyone who can explain me what do we mean by app shell? Okay, this is absolutely minimal set of resources of our web application, of our web project. And yes, here we are talking explicitly about front-end part. So we are talking only about what's running in our browser. So absolute minimal set of files. Let's call this super simple files like index.html, like our JavaScript, maybe some styles, maybe some images, if you see, to at least start the shell of our app, say, start some UI, some UI which could be useful, not just a loading picture or loading indicator, but something interesting for the user, so our customer, our client, user of our app will understand that okay, web app is here, and for example, we can wait another few seconds to load some data. So in most cases, what is it? What could be included in application shell, like our logo type, maybe basic menu, and maybe some loaders, right? To explain that we are loading information, but the whole point is to show this part immediately or close to immediately. How can we achieve this? Of course, like the first load, we still fully rely on the network, right? Even if we super optimize our JavaScript and inline critical styles and everything, we still need to download from the internet, right? But let's think about second start. Can we put it somewhere show this immediately on all next start of our app, and at the same time we don't want to rely on regular browser HTTP cache. Yes, that's possible, and this is what service worker API and our service worker file is responsible for. So obviously, to show something on the second start, we have to cache. We have to store this something somewhere, and we do it using our service worker. So what is service worker? This is regular JavaScript file, right? So this is JavaScript code which uses corresponding API. And service worker is a type of web worker, but a very specific one. It's actually sitting in between of our web application, our main JavaScript, and the network, and it can intercept all our network requests and do some useful actions on response and request. It's and all the code we have in service worker wrapped into some listeners, because service worker is event-based or event-driven, and basically it performed only on some actions, and all the rest service worker is sleeping somewhere inside our browser, so it doesn't take our processor time, our memory, and so on. So we do not go super detailed into service worker. This is quite extensive API and it has very specific life cycle. I just want to show you some simplicity and at the same time some complexity of the way when we decided to create everything ourselves. So just imagine, we have an event called install in our service worker. So this is a file, for example, we call this service worker JS, we register it in our app, and on this install event, we intercept all the requests our app does, request to index.html, main.js, whatever, and put it into cache. And this is not a regular one, this is a special type of storage in our browser, available in all modern browsers now, called cache API. This is quite often confusion when folks mess up regular HTTP cache and this cache managed by service worker, because name is very confusing, right? This very specific type of cache called just cache. It's really hard to explain, but we use cache API for caching. This is how it works. And then another event called activate, we most likely want to clean the previous versions of files we have. Why do we need this? Because we develop our application, right? So we have new and new versions. So we, for example, added some new functionality, fixed some bugs in our app, added new bugs in our app, as it always happens. And we don't want to store all the versions ever inside the browser of our user, right? Because what we cache inside the browser, it will stay in the browser, and we don't want it take like hundreds of megabytes, right? So we have to wipe everything. So on the first side, it looks simple, right? So put something into the cache. We don't go deeper in the code, and just wipe on another event. But in reality, we cannot handle opaque responses in the same way, and this is quite a regular way for our app if we use something from CDNs, for example, like some fonts or maybe some images from external origins. If we have something redirected, this is another very specific use case case that we want to handle inside this install event. And maybe putting everything into cache on every new build of our app is way not optimal way, right? If we, for example, only updated logo type of our app, why to put everything else as a new version? So we might want to implement some smarter cache handling. As I mentioned, even if we wipe previous versions, we still want to manage the size of what we cached somehow. And after all, cache and validation algorithm is not something that you want to write, believe me, and especially if you have way more practical tasks around your app, and way more, many more edge cases, and not edge cases, but just use cases we want to handle during this. Similar for the first view process, when we just take everything and cache everything, right? Okay, this was about well, like one way of our task, about putting something into cache, right? Next, we want to serve our files from there. And inside service worker, we have another event called fetch, and service worker catches this one on literally every request from our app. By every, I mean every. All requests we have from our JavaScript code explicitly, like when we call fetch or call the XML HTTP request. Same goes for requests from our HTML. For example, when in our HTML markup we have some image, for example, our logo type, it also can be intercepted by service worker. And literally everything. So we can, what is the strategy? Service worker listens to these requests, and on every request we can choose what we want to do. We can pass this request next to the network, like be transparent, okay? Or we can try to check if we have something previously cached from the previous steps and serve it from cache. And if it's not in cache, we can go for the network, and at the same time we can take what we downloaded from network and put into the cache. So it's whole strategy we can write by our hands manually. Yes, you after all you will implement some kind of routing. So on this silly and naive sample, you see we just check the string inside of request URL, and you see if this is something not not API, then we go for cache first strategy. It means that we try to serve everything from cache. If it's related to our API, we'll try to trigger network first. Again, it looks maybe not so simple, but still doable, but in real life. We have to implement all the kinds of fallbacks I mentioned, right? So if we try to get something from network, if we try to redirect this request to network and network is not available, offline use case, we have to go and check cache, and if it's not in cache, maybe we have to show some message that we cannot do anything, right? If we try to take this resource from cache and it's not in the cache, we have to go to network and all this cycle again. And believe me, this is not the code you wish to write. Next, I just mentioned some simple strategies, but we can implement even more sophisticated. Not to make our application more complex, but to make it more reliable and more user-friendly. fail while revalidate. This is the name of strategy when we serve, or at least try to serve some resource like index HTML from cache immediately, but at the same time we send a request to network just to check if this file was updated. After all, as I mentioned, you will implement routing. Plus, for different type of resources, you, after all, will implement different types of handling of these resources and way more other edge cases. So after all, what we have as a summary about writing our service worker manually. First, it's still absolutely possible. So, and you can create the simplest version of your progressive app without using any kind of external libraries and using any framework or without framework at all. So you can create it relatively simple, but this will be very naive implementation of service worker. So you will be excited and it's inspired, but in real life you will need to add more features, fix this edge case, fix this bug, and yeah. So after all, you will spend a decent amount of time to create your progressive app. And obviously, it's really hard to think about all possible fallbacks, edge cases, and after all, you will dig deep into HTTP protocol because without understanding of how HTTP works, it's impossible to write a really reliable service worker. So I hope I scared you enough to write your service worker manually. Luckily we have really cool tools to help us with this. And why do we need tools at all? And this is not about only service worker helpers. This is about tools, libraries, helpers in general, right? So they help us to save our time on implementing quite sophisticated algorithm, right? And I recommend you not to just npm install something and using this. If you have spare time, just have a look how it works. So if you love how this or that package module works, just check its source code, and in most cases you'll find really good samples that you will use on your own project. So it helps us to adopt best practices from my experienced developers. And after all, you will save your time to work on your own task, and you will be like ready for some complex cases just by using some best practices. So this is about tooling in general, and also I have some points especially related to progressive apps. So first, Service Worker API and some other APIs related to progressive apps are living standards. And sometimes even breaking changes occurs. And this is really sad, and this could be quite dangerous if you wrote some code, maybe you use some like experimental features, right? But in the next version of browser, this experimental feature was like deprecated or changed. After all, you can put your websites offline, and that happened. This is not theoretical. That happened maybe 1 or 2 years ago after some change in fetch API. So it's not like directly related to PWA, but actively used there. So many websites using some specific version of some PWA library went offline in the next version of Firefox browser, just because the security of fetch API was updated a bit. And if you like on this market, if you write your own service worker or library using service worker, you have to follow all these updates. sure that you're on the cutting edge. And lots of edge cases. I mentioned some of them, but it's just a few of everything possible. Yes, and after all, you will end up with learning internals of HTTP, because yes, all this network magic is connected to how HTTP, this working course of all web, works. Okay, so we passed the manual part of service worker API section. Now let's have a look on what Angular team offers to us. I have lots of slides dedicated to this, but if not everyone of you use Angular, let's keep it as simple as possible, and maybe we skip most of them. I just want to give you maybe a feeling how it could be automated, and we'll jump over to the next section, which is about workbox, which could be applicable to any framework or to frameworkless JavaScript applications. I believe this will be way more usable for our today's meeting. So, in Angular Service Worker, which is called also NGSW, which is just shortening. NG is regular shortening for Angular, right? And the SW Service Worker. Let's skip some historical part. And now, if you use the latest version of Angular, so who is using Angular CLI 6 or 5, something like this? Okay, then you know how it works, right? So you create your new app, or you can take your existing app, and then you use command add of Angular command line interface, and yes, the package called Angular PWA, and who can tell me how it's called in general? When we do something ng add and something, what do we use from Angular to achieve this? How that's called? It's not like very specific to Angular. I believe this possibility will be extended into other frameworks. So what do we use by using ng add command? And what is Angular PWA in general? How do we call this? Any ideas? What do we, anyone using ng add something command? How do we call in Angular when we run some command to scaffold something, to create new files, to update some files, to, I don't know, add some functionality? Okay, that's called schematics. Have you heard about this? Yes, you just forgot. Yeah, so this is the way we actually add some functionality to our existing app. So this is just a way to automate some boring file manipulations, to create file, to update file, and basically by this ng add Angular PWA, we, as I mentioned, change a couple of files and add a couple of new files. So after we added this, we can run the production build. It's important to run production, and on our distribution folder, we'll notice some new files which were never before we ran this schematics. First, this is Angular Service Worker itself, which is NGSW Worker. This is Service Worker. We just explained how it works. And NGSW.json. This is settings file for Angular Service Worker. And a couple of utility files. We will not go into these details. Yes, so as I mentioned, let's skip all technical parts of this slide deck related to Angular. If not everyone is Angular developer here, let's understand what. Let me just skip all this. Slides. So what? Okay, let's go back for this one. Yes, so we created production build of our Angular app, and imagine that we serve this application. It could be a brand new one or your existing one after you added this schematics. What will happen? Completely automatically by just adding these schematics. Angular CLI created service worker for you with some smart defaults. These settings will generate everything you need to have application shell. So after you run this production build, after you serve this app, it's offline ready. And after very first start, after your customer have seen your application, you can be sure that it's already cached, and on the next start, this will be served from cache immediately. And that means that it will work even in offline mode. And of course, then you can fine-tune these settings, which is a part of this JSON file. For example, to add more resources or to exclude some resources if you don't wish, for example, to pre-cache your image directory, or vice versa, you wish to add some fonts to cache. It's super flexible to fine-tune. So you don't have to care about working with cache API, about optimizing this cache, about cleaning old versions. Angular does everything for you on each new build. So you run ng build, Angular service worker is responsible for understanding which files were updated, which files to put cache, which files to delete. So you don't have to care at all. So this is literally code-free settings, and it's all based. We will not go into these details. So you just edit your NGSW config JSON, where you provide some paths to your files. For example, this is how we say what to cache as our option, right? So we can use wildcards here. Of course, we don't have to list all these files one by one. Plus, some of these files have hash as a file name. So Angular service worker understands everything. Let's go to this part. So I hope you now have at least a vision or a big picture how application shell works. This is something that we can preload in advance, right? So we know all the file names we want to cache, right? Even if they contain hash, we can use wildcards. But anyway, application shell, it's related to this specific build version of our app. And yeah, it's not related to only Angular, right? This is how it works in general. But resources we can cache in service worker are not related to only this use case. In our application, like I believe in 99% of apps, we use some API, right? And we don't have any idea, in most cases, which API our customer will use during the life of the app in the browser. They can go to like Flash API catalog, they can go to Flash news, whatever. This is something we can intercept, cache, and serve on the run, right? So this is This is why it's called runtime caching, and it has to play totally different rules, right? So it's not related to a specific build of our app, but it's mostly related to the version of API we use, so it's actually related to our backend, or it could be not our backend, but some third-party backend. By the way, I'm really sorry that I sit this way. So here we can talk about some strategies, and some APIs they could be quite, say, conservative. For example, maybe if we have some archive on our website, then we can say, okay, once our user went to archive part of our web app and downloaded some old news from 80s, and if we have this JSON with this data in our cache, we are fine with trying to get it from cache every time, right? So most likely this news will never be changed, and if they in cache, let's serve this. If not, then we can go to network, right? But for APIs like this, like breaking news, right? I believe there is no reason to even start with cache. We can always try to reach network first, and if we have this privilege to be connected and internet is okay, yes, we got this JSON with latest news, we show this to our user, and then we can decide what to do. We can put this into cache, for example, for if you downloaded some morning news and you check the same web app when you're offline, when you go home, for example, I don't know, in some tunnel without internet, maybe in some cases it's better to show at least something, but maybe on your UI you can show the message that we are sorry, internet is not available at the moment. So these are news from some previous period, right? So we can think about strategies here, about trying to always be fresh or trying to be performant. And this strategy is called freshness or performance correspondingly. But these are like specific Angular service worker terms. In more general, this is network first strategy. It's about freshness or cache first strategy. It's about performance. Let's skip everything else related to Angular Service Worker. I believe I gave you idea how it works. So it's all configuration based. So you just provide configuration. We want to preload these files. We want to have network first strategy for this part of our API. We want to try to download everything from cache for this part of the API. So you literally don't write any line of the code here. You just provide basic configuration. Let's talk about user experience part of application shell. So let's return to app shell. So just imagine and this is not specific to Angular. This is specific to how progressive web app works in general. So this would be useful for all front-end cases. Okay, just imagine we have version 1 of our web application, and again we are exclusively about client-side part of this. So let's say we have like some logo saying Tinel meetup. Okay, and our user will hit this URL, and what they will see in browser, this will be version 1, right? Okay, then we suddenly realized that we have a typo, and we wrote meetup using 1E, right? So we went and we fixed this error. So we like literally updated, for example, index HTML, right? We deployed this on the server. So now we have version 2, but we are talking about progressive bug, right? So you remember that on the first start, everything was cached by our service worker, manual or Angular service worker or workbox, we don't care about this. So now it's in cache. And the point of application shell is to serve this immediately, right? Even if user online or offline, what we see here is version 1, unfortunately, right? And I believe you seen many times. Wait a second. So how do we fix this? So this is a well-known trade-off or like compromise of progressive web apps in general. We have to choose, right, to serve this immediately from cache without going to network, or this will not application shell at all. And of course, here our service worker could be smart enough to check if this index.html was updated and put the newer version into cache updated, and if you hit reload, you will after all see updated fixed version of the app. But what can we do here to at least improve user experience, at least to get, at least to give the information to the user that despite you see this version of app, there is a newer version of this web application available. So who can tell me what's happening on current progressive web apps? Maybe I believe many of you seen this user experience, like workaround, trick, you name this. So after you load some website on some resources, you can see message. It could be, I don't know, it could be any design of message. It could be kind of pop-up or something floating, which is saying the newer version of application is available. If someone has seen this, yes. So this is how progressive web app works. So this is if you have seen this, it means two things. First, this is not just a website, but it's progressive web app. And second, it was loaded immediately from cache, but newer version is available. And for me, this is really serious workaround, or it actually breaks the idea of web, right? So it doesn't make it always fresh. But we have to decide here, right? Of course, for example, we can after we serve something immediately and our service worker checked that something newer, we can explicitly reload the page. But maybe it's even worse. Then you load something, then it blinks, and you see something different. So I haven't seen examples like this, but technically that's possible. Luckily, both Angular Service Worker and Workbox, they have the possibility for us to at least catch the moment when we can show this message. So we are free to implement or not implement this newer version of website is available ourselves, so it's our responsibility. But Angular Service Worker gives us quite simple way to catch this moment and to do some actions. Again, we don't go to technical details. Let me show how it looks after all. So we have version 3. We updated version a bit before reloads, and you can show this this pop-up. Again, this is totally up to us how we implement this. Angular Service Worker just gives us quite simple way to catch this event. So we don't have to do anything. We don't have to check if the version was updated. We just listen to observable. You know that in Angular it's all based on observables, and we use this approach here. My next part is about push notifications, but this deserves, I believe, special presentation about this. I can only say that again, Angular Service Worker gives us a really simple way to manage everything, and basically push notifications is a two parts process, and these parts are separated in time. First, we can ask user to subscribe to our notifications. We cannot send this message to our user without explicit consent, luckily. Otherwise, this will just turn into huge spam channel. And second, send notifications themselves. This code is about subscription, so we can use like native JavaScript way of doing this, or use this shortcut in Angular called request subscription. And this is all we literally we have to do. All the rest, how to send notifications, Angular Service Worker takes care automatically. We just have to follow some convention on our backend. So push notifications, they all start from our backend part. So we just have to wrap our content to the node called notification, and that's it. And then I believe you all have seen how push notifications work. So first we subscribe, and then you see a bunch of messages. They will show up now. Yes. So yeah, this is really interesting possibility for the modern web to have these notifications at all. But please don't overuse this because as some of the speakers mentioned, probably it was Chris Hellman, it could be like pop-ups of the new generation. You remember that in the beginning of the internet, this was total hell with unmanaged, impossible to control pop-ups when you enter some URL and you got 10 browser windows open. Luckily now all browsers can block everything, but we have this new channel now, and it all depends on us, on developers will we use this responsibly, or all users will just block notifications just by default, and then the whole idea will disappear. Okay, we'll not go into rest of details, so let's just say what Angular Service Worker helps us to automate. App shell, runtime caching, push notifications is all code free, all configuration based, and for smart updates, it's just a couple of lines of code. And as always, there are pros and cons, right? Main advantage is we can use this out of the box without serious knowledge of how Service Worker works, right? We don't have to write this ourselves. But on the other hand, if we, after all, need some more sophisticated functionality, and Service Worker is far not limited only by this network magic and push notifications, it's quite challenging to extend it. I'd say at the moment there are only hackish way to add new features to Angular Service Worker. So I'd say that it's good for start, and it's good for immediate start with converting your current Angular app to progressive web app, but maybe later your project will need something more, and then you can switch to Workbox. And this is really exciting library because it has lots of interesting features going again out of the box completely, and it's not it's framework agnostic, so you can use it for your any JavaScript project. So you see that all what's included in Angular Service Worker is here as well. What is the real magic is, for example, offline Google Analytics. What is it? Just imagine your user, your customer is offline, but you still want to gather analytics, the regular Google Analytics, which page were visited, and like literally everything that you can get. What you can do using Workbox, you just add one line of code, just like init this plugin. plugin and you get it out of the box. So Workbox is fully responsible for gathering everything that user does when they offline, plus automatic uploads everything to Google Analytics server when user go back to online. So this works really like magic. There are two main options how to start with Workbox. First one is install Workbox CLI. It's really popular for modern JavaScript libraries packages to have its own CLI. It's really hot trend nowadays, so we can go for this. Install it globally, and then we have Workbox command in our system, and we can run command called wizard. And then in interactive mode, this tool will ask you some questions. The main question is where your asset stored. After all, this will generate this kind of JSON configuration. It's not in form of JSON, it's JS, but still, it's the idea is the same. This is just a JavaScript object with configuration. It just contains information about which files to take to create the application shell. Okay, and then if we map it to Angular app, we can provide something like this. So this is how we updated this configuration to approximately correspond what we get from Angular Service Worker out of the box. So just small fine tuning. And we will get generated Service Worker JS. So the whole point here is again not to write all this code to maintain all requests, interceptions, edge cases, and so on. Don't put so much attention to this code. This is just something to showcase that this one will be generated automatically for you. Only thing we have to do manually in that case is to register. It's again how we do it inside Angular, and the whole point here is to do it as late as possible in our app for not to compete for processor time and network resources for our main app. Then, if you open your browser console, you will see that Workbox did everything for you, and we have Service Worker registered and ready. Again, we don't write any line of the code, and you can test how it works offline. By the way, I believe it makes sense to notice that to have all the information about our progressive web application, we go to DevTools of Chrome, go to Application tab, and everything is there. All the information about Service Worker, about what's inside the cache, and all the internals. And you can do experiment. Believe me, you have like dozens of Service Worker in your browser, on your working or home machine, and you cannot even notice this because, as I mentioned, Service Worker is something that wakes up only on some demand. So if you go to Application tab, and there is, it's not on this screenshots, I think. There is one more checkbox, I believe it's under information about current Service Worker, like show information about all Service Workers, and you will notice how many websites, how many progressive apps you already visited, and so I promise you, you will be surprised. But let me skip to maybe to simplify everything. Let me just emphasize the main feature, main advantage of using Workbox against, for example, Angular Service Worker is that you can write your own service worker. So of course, CLI, workbox CLI is not the way you create something for production, right? And not the way you create like continuous integration. You don't want to install workbox CLI on your production server, right? So it's good for to start with, it's good for testing. But after all, you will come to this option when you have your own service worker and you extend it using workbox. So this is the killer feature of this library. There is a special package called workbox build, which gives you this this possibility. So let's imagine that we have our custom service worker. We not say about what extra functionality, what extra features we have there. We don't care. What we want to avoid this hassle with going through resources one by one, with checking what to cache, what to not cache, what to cache runtime or not. We want to like outsource everything to workbox, and that's possible. So then in your custom service worker, you import this library script, and you see this empty array which you inject in pre-cache and route method. And yeah, its method really well named. What it does, it pre-caches and routes all your resources, and then workbox build this package based on your configuration populates this array for you. So it takes your my service worker JS, it injects what needed to be injected into this empty array, and after all, you have still your own, your custom service worker, but with all the automated stuff inside. And the same, you can provide some strategies for your, for example, APIs. And like we had in the sample for like breaking news for archive, similar way, but a bit more flexible. You register route and you provide strategy in case of workbox. So you see, in that case, we have route called timeline, and we say that network, we want to have that network first. And to conclude, the main features of workbox, it's equipped with very good set of features going out of the box, but you still have the possibility to build your custom service worker, and the only cons here is that you need this extra build step, but that's not so complex compared, of course, to writing your own service worker. That's it from me now, and your questions, please.
Are there any security implications in using service workers?
Yes, this is a very good question. The main and obligatory part of all PWA concept is that you have to run everything on HTTPS. So this is a requirement. Your service worker will not just work on HTTP. The only exclusion here is your localhost. On localhost, for us, for developers, you can test everything without setting up secure HTTP. But service worker is kind of man in the middle in corresponding way of attack. This is why this is a requirement.
That's exactly why I asked.
Yes. Using service worker, actually you intercept everything. And of course, another serious notice is be very careful with what you cache in this cache API, because it's totally open. So you literally can again open your DevTools, open application tab, and went through everything that service worker cached for different websites. So absolutely no way. There is no option for you to cache some sensitive information. And by the way, also service workers could be the way you expose your history of browsing in your Chrome, because I'm not sure that when you clean your history, you clean service workers related to this history. And again, you can do this experiment. You just go to Chrome, go to application, and you will see the list of service workers for many websites you visit. And why do I mention Chrome? And don't think about it's only supported in Chrome. So it works fine in Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and all Blink-based browsers like Opera, like Samsung Internet. But Chrome is the best. It's like without no doubt the best for development. And DevTools is like way at the moment way more advanced than in any other browser. More questions?
How would you compare this to React Native?
Oh, it's not a different approach. So React Native, you still build native app, right? And here you don't.
There's a middleman.
I'd say these are different directions. It's hard to say that this is something like on transit or
Okay, so both are aiming for cross-platform, but it's a different approach, right?
It's different approach to cross-platform, right? When you use tools like React Native or NativeScript or Cordova, you still build different apps for different platforms, right? So it's say more or less one code base, but builds are totally different. Use progressive app, you use literally one set of files for every platform. And talking about support, again, it works on your iOS devices. So it was, the main blocker of whole idea of progressive apps was from Apple side, because no one knew will this be supported. Will this ever supported on iPhones? And luckily, it's not perfect. It still has some annoying bugs and say lacks some crucial features. But in general, yes, you can open your progressive app on your iPhone. You can install this, and this will not be just a regular shortcut like you would do for a regular website. This will be your app, which will be located in the cache of your Safari browser. And by the way, who can tell me what's the problem with, for example, Chrome browser on iPhone or iPad? So why not? Okay, so if some feature is not in Safari, for example, why not to just install Chrome browser on our iPhone and use latest and greatest APIs from Blink, from Chromium? Why it's technically not possible?
Because Chrome is using Safari for the rendering.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Any browser you have on your iOS device, it's literally just a frame around the Safari renderer.
So it's using the web view.
Yes, and this is a strict limitation from Apple side. So Chrome on your iPhone is not real Chrome. This is just like overlay over Safari. Unfortunately, it's a platform limitation. This is why on iOS we fully rely on what folks from Apple deliver on Safari. More questions? Thank you. Yeah, but I have some stickers.